Hello, everyone. Welcome once again to the Powerhouse Woman Show, where we speak with and talk to and get to learn from amazing women who are leading and charting their own course. They're deciding what's important. They have a vision and they make it happen. We learn from their expertise and we also learn from their lessons learned. I'm Monica Pierre, and I have the pleasure of talking to some of these amazing women. And one in particular, I have a question for you. Do you have an entrepreneurial spirit? If so, what does that look like? And what are you creating with that entrepreneurial spirit? We're joined now by someone who really knows a whole lot about the entrepreneurial spirit, what that can look like, how do you develop it. We're joined by Peggy Mendoza. Peggy is an entrepreneur and a great waiver. She's also the COO and founder of LA Waters. We'll talk about that. And also how she and her siblings are keeping their family business alive, the Mendoza Medical Clinic. First of all, it's been a while, but thank you, Peggy, for being on the show with us today.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited about your show. I love anything that helps women be more successful and share their stories.
Absolutely. There's so much power. I knew that as a journalist and a reporter, an Emmy Award winner, but now I really know that we need forums, not just like my show, but to tell the stories, particularly of women and what they're doing. So let's begin with you. A little bit of your backstory. Did you always have the entrepreneurial bug or spirit, or was that something that came along later for you?
So I'm going to say, if I'm honest with myself, I probably always had that entrepreneurial spirit, even as a kid. I remember being at school and selling these giant paper clips because they were cool. I found in a store, and I'd buy a bunch and sell them to my friends at a small profit. But I kind of put that away because, one of the, my family immigrated here from Honduras. So as immigrants, right, the life is to work hard, get a job, do something steady, right? And so that was where I was lined up to do. And so I focused on that, right? Working in the private sector, having my job, getting my paycheck every 2 weeks, and building that. And that was good and very successful for over 20 years in the private sector. But then that entrepreneurial spirit came back up when I shifted from the private sector to nonprofit. So for the following 15 years, I spent 15 years in the nonprofit space. And then COVID hit, that, kind of allowed people to change their minds about things a little bit. And I really fully embraced that entrepreneurial spirit from starting with COVID.
So interesting. I've interviewed you in the past when I worked in radio.
Mm-hmm.
Is it a fire, a hunger, a vision? I mean, how would you describe the spirit as it really began to speak louder and louder and louder to you?
Yeah. That's a great question. I'm going to say it's a little bit of drive, right? So it's that drive to, I know how to do this. I want to be able to do it. I think a lot of times in the private sector, or even the nonprofit space, when you're working for bigger organizations or other organizations, it's about how they want to do it. And so there was a lot of times that I felt like I was kind of hitting my head up against the wall, thinking, oh, I know this city, I know this area, I think we should do it this way. And you've got a lot of other people. It's not your company, right? It's not yours. You don't get to implement or pivot when you see something that could be better, could be stronger. So there was a little bit of that drive to be like, I have a voice, I have a vision, I have the capacity and the capability. Let me. And I finally figured out I don't have to say let me anymore. I'm just going to go do it myself.
Right. So describe that aha moment to when you started putting things in place. Mm-hmm. What were some of the thoughts in your head? And how did you overcome them, especially if they're saying like, are you crazy? Go back to what you know.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's a little bit, right? Because all of a sudden you're like the security of going to work and, your steady paycheck on a Friday or twice a month or whatever it is. It's a little scary when you've got a lot of responsibilities at home. But I'm going to say right before COVID, my dad was a pediatrician. He started his medical practice over 50 years ago. He passed away in 2011. my sister runs the day to day at the medical clinic, as well as my mother, who's 83 and another powerhouse woman. By the way, she goes to work every single day except for Wednesday, which is her self care day.
Wow.
But we started to see, obviously, with my dad's passing, the business changed a little bit, and so we really had to regroup. And at that time, we're lucky in New Orleans that we have the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Business Program that really helps entrepreneurs. So I, asked my sister to go in and join, and she knew how to run things because she'd been working with my dad since she got out of college. So it's all she knew. And I'm like, we've got to expand your knowledge. And so she did that program. And I'm going to say, the sad part when COVID happened is that we had so many great small businesses in New Orleans that didn't survive. It was too big a hit and they couldn't make it. And I most certainly did not want that to happen to the Mendoza Medical Clinic that my parents started, that we continued to build. And so we were lucky enough that, my sister had gone through that program. I was connected to it tangentially. I'm actually a business advisor with Goldman Sachs now. But it really was the shifts and the learnings that came from that allowed us to get through COVID and now continue to move forward. We have a building out in Kenner. We've been in Kenner for over 50 years. We're doing renovations, and we moved into a temporary office while we renovate our building. But the goal is that we're going to reopen in 2025, bigger, better, and stronger than ever.
That is really a powerhouse story, and put in a good word for me, because I want to have your mom on the show.
Yes, absolutely.
When she said Wednesday is my self-care day, I bet that's non-negotiable, right?
It is non-negotiable. And my parents did that. Like, as kids, we always enjoyed Wednesday nights because it's the day we got to have fast food for dinner, because they went out on their date night. Wow. So they'd go to the movies, she'd get dressed up, they'd go out, whatever it is that they needed to do. But Wednesday was, and even after my dad's passing, that's still the day she gets her hair and nails done. So
absolutely. That's the ultimate powerhouse woman. Come on the show. Talk a little bit about how you mentor entrepreneurs or those with the entrepreneurial spirit, and what resonated when you were sharing your story about your sister and you were advising her that go and get that knowledge base, because I think sometimes that's important, because we let the spirit lead us sometimes and we don't have like a foundation beneath us.
Yeah, exactly. And that's really, people have such great ideas and want to go do it. But to your point, starting a business is not easy. Sustaining a business is even harder. And so it really is about tapping into resources. And, I call it, for me, I have a student mentality. I always want to learn. And so what else do I need to know now? What new information should I get a grasp of? And understanding what those resources are. And then, use your contacts, 10 to 1. If you go on LinkedIn or something, there's somebody, who did a particular program you're researching that happens to be Goldman Sachs or something else. But ask them how it went. What was the commitment? What did they do? And what did they get out of it? I think sometimes we think, we live in a silo when we're by ourselves and we carry all that weight on our own shoulders and we think we have to do it all. And there's so many resources out there. We just have to kind of reach and grab and talk to people.
We mentioned briefly, Peggy, you are the founder and COO of LA Waters.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Yeah. So again, this was a very interesting idea. So one of my business partners had been in the water. It's a bottled water delivery company. We are locally owned, locally operated. I'm sitting in LA Waters right now. And he, at that time, I was doing consulting with a different business partner, and he came to us for wanting consulting help because he wanted to be able to start his own company. He wasn't quite ready to start that on his own as we really started to dig into the work of what that meant. But most certainly thought this was a great partnership opportunity. How do we do this together? And so we're now 3 years old, and we've had big growth every single year. We have a 7-year business plan in place. And we have real targets that we pursue on a regular basis. Like, you asked me if I always had an entrepreneurial spirit. I'm like, I could say since I was a kid. I've also been a chief operations officer my entire life. Operations is what I do. I can run things. I can, if you have a vision, literally I can see in my head what are the steps to get us there. And so it's what I do. It's what I do well. And it's most certainly knowledge I like to share with people and understand what that is.
There are different reasons and stories of the people who watch us, not just here in New Orleans, but around the country. And, I'll have my first London guest next month, and I'm very excited about that. Yay, London. Some Canadians as well. What advice or things to think about and perhaps think through for those who say, you know what, either I've had enough of this, or I ain't getting no younger. Now is the time. Or some people who are probably in the middle of that. What advice would you give them?
So I'm going to say, whatever you want to start doing, right? Do your homework. And, for some people, that means, getting on the internet and reading. Like I said, reach out to people who do that. It's amazing. People really like to share their knowledge and information. You just have to ask them. And so put a plan in place, right? Whatever you decide to start, just figure out what you're really plan it. What should I do? What do I need to do in year 1? What do I need to do in year 2? What happens in year 3? When do I pull the trigger to grow? And know that it's flexible. Like, it doesn't have to be 100% correct, because this is living and breathing. You can readjust as you need to. So don't be afraid of that, but put a plan in place so that you are marching towards something, right? I would say, like, when we watch a football game, you don't just see a team of football players out on the field going, I think we're going to do something. No, they're trying to get a first down, then a second down, then a third down, but they know most number of touchdowns is going to get them the win. So they have like short-term goals, they have long-term goals, and even longer-term goals, right? Winning the Super Bowl, maybe not in our history this year, but but knowing it's that same concept, right? What is your first down? What does that mean? How do you get to a touchdown? What does that mean? How do you play a whole season? What does that mean? How do you get from this season to next season? What does that mean?
Absolutely. This is so tangible, because when we hear the word plan, I know some of them go like, oh my God, a business plan.
I can't do it.
I can't do it. I mean, I don't know what to put, but even if you don't know a lot about football, we know basic concepts of it. First down, who's the coach, that type of thing. What do we do if we're, 3 in inches? Do we go for it? I mean, that type of thing.
And like you said, knowing, like, if you're the coach, guess what? You can't be the quarterback also. Right. So you've got to know who needs to be on your team. And I get it. You've got a small business. If you had, nobody starts a small business because they have $1 billion in the bank and I have unlimited resources and unlimited talent, right? You've got limited resources. So understanding who are the key players that I absolutely have, what can I tap into that would be flexible? I think, one of the great things post-COVID is people's mindsets of how to do work, when to do work, has really shifted and changed with the flexibility, right? So now you don't have to have a chief financial officer. You just have to have somebody who does your bookkeeping and your accounting and a CPA. And you figure out how you bring that in so that you get that done and don't miss that, right? Because you need to get your taxes paid, et cetera, right? There's real, nuts and bolts of running a business that need to happen. But knowing who are all the people that you can tap into that like working with small businesses and entrepreneurs.
Right, wonderful. So how do people learn more about you? I know you're doing with Goldman Sachs, but other ways that people can follow along, whether it's LA Waters or the Mendoza Medical Clinic. And I understand that you are going to have a spa in 2025. Tell us about that.
We are going to open up the Mendoza Med Spa. It'll be one of the first med spas in Kenner. Like I said, we've been in business in Kenner for a very long time. There's a large Latino community. That's one of the reasons why my dad started the clinic there. So we've got the Mendoza Medical Clinic. We have a website and a Facebook. You can tap into us there. We're currently in the process of building the med spa. And of course, LA Waters, we've got, you can reach us at drinklawaters.com. We'd love to deliver water to you. And I always say, like, we're locally owned. We pick up the phone. You don't call our office and have to hit 1 for this, 2 for that, 3 for the other. I've got people who actually answer the phone. Because one of the things that's important to, you mentioned mentorship, but also like giving people opportunity. I have a great staff, and I've built the staff up little by little, right? But at the clinic, we have staff that's been with us over 20 years. Some people who worked with my dad when he was alive. And here at I have somebody. I'll give her a shout out, Kaylin, at my front desk. She'll be her first person in her family to go to college, because we will certainly encourage. Such a smart girl, had not been given an opportunity before, and just learns she does my routing, she does customer service, she has learned everything. And we said to her, you need to go get your bachelor's degree. So she goes to class on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and she'll be graduating soon. So we're very excited about that. And especially as a young Black female, for me, how we help, I like to help everybody, right? But I'm particular to women.
Yes.
In particular to women of color.
Yes, right. That's why we call it the Powerhouse Woman Show. I do not apologize for that. I have worked too long in this business not to have the name of the show that I want. So
that's right.
We'll find other opportunities, people who are not powerhouse women. But for now, this is what the focus of the show is. Peggy, thank you so much. And this has really been inspiring. Thank you for being a powerhouse woman and continuing to look down the road and what that looks like and inspiring others. We do appreciate it.
Thank you, Monica. This is a great platform and I appreciate it.
Great. Oh, hold on just a second. And we want to thank you for listening and watching today. And I'm hoping you took some notes. I will go back. What's the one thing that you can take away from this and implement as well? You do have an entrepreneurial spirit in some shape or form. And even if you stay on in the current position or career you're in, that spirit is always there as well. So thank you for joining us. And we'll talk to you next time on the Powerhouse Woman Show.